Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. I'm Last Wanderer, and today we've got Snapshot 21w05a. And with this new snapshot, we have a lot of new vegetation, all of which is from the upcoming Lush Caves biome. With this new vegetation, we also get a lot of interesting new mechanics and farms, which I'll be showing you today. First, let's look at the spore blossom. This new flower is not currently farmable, and it can only be placed on the underside of blocks. One interesting thing it does do, though, is it emits these green particles that drip down. And that's pretty much all there is to the spore blossom. So, next up, we have Azalea Trees. Or, rather, we don't. Currently, right now, we only have Azalea Shrubs and the flowering Azalea Shrub, along with the Azalea Leaves and the flowering leaves, along with the rooted dirt and hanging roots that will generate under Azalea Trees. But we don't actually have the tree itself yet. Also notably missing are Azalea Logs, which these Azalea leaves actually have a tag relating to Azalea Logs, showing that Azalea Logs will most likely be added in the future. One other interesting to note is if you break the Azalea leaves, you'll get either the two saplings back, or shrubs, whatever you prefer to call them. But there's also another way to get these Azalea shrubs or saplings, and I'll get into that later. Up until now, I've really only mentioned plants that weren't growable, besides the Azalea saplings. But this next one is, and it's the dripleaf plant. Both the big dripleaf and the small dripleaf. Small dripleafs are a lot like two tall flowers, except they can only be placed partially or completely underwater on blocks like moss, clay, podzol, forest dirt, regular dirt, but surprisingly not rooted dirt. You can also place them on land, but only on clay block. Another interesting thing about them is if you use bone meal on them, they'll turn into a big dripleaf plant. But the height of this big dripleaf will vary. While the small dripleaf is non-collidable, the leaf on the big dripleaf is solid, and if you stand on it, after 2 seconds, the leaf will give way and you'll fall through. Then, after a few seconds, the leaf will come back up. Big dripleafs can also be bone mealed, and with each bone meal you use, it'll grow up by 1 block, though you can only bone meal the leaf part of the plant. Trying to bone meal anywhere else won't work. If you break the bottom of the plant, the whole plant will break. You can also break the plant by throwing a projectile at the leaf, and it breaks downward. You just punch the leaf out, it will also break downward. Unfortunately though, you'll only ever get a single dripleaf item from a dripleaf when you break it, no matter how many times you bone meal it. Some other interesting facts about the big dripleaf is that mobs will not spawn on it. Also, if you stand on it, in addition to falling through, if you wait around long enough, the dripleaf will eventually go back in place, and it can do like what a trap door can do and put you into crawl mode. So it can be used like a natural trap door of sorts to get you to crawl. Observers will also detect dripleaf, including when an entity stands on it and when they get off, in addition to its other states of falling through and popping back up. Since you can only get a single dripleaf item from breaking a dripleaf, they are currently not farmable. But you can currently get dripleafs from the guy you kill for leads, though this isn't a very practical way of getting them. Now we get to the completion of the glow quinfecta from the last snapshot, with glowberries joining the bunch. This new vine is a lot like weeping vines, since it grows down from the ceiling, and whenever it grows, it has a chance of generating glowberries in the new section. However, existing parts of the vines will not grow glowberries unless you use bone meal on them. Likewise, you can't actually grow the vine with bone meal, you can only put glowberries on them. But once you harvest a glowberry, you can take it and then add to the vine. Some other interesting facts about glowberries is that the vine that they grow on is called a cave vine. Also, when eaten, glowberries restore 1 hunger horn, just like sweet berries. Also like sweet berries, foxes will harvest and eat glowberries. And if you break a cave vine that has a glowberry in it with a piston, you'll get a glowberry back. Both of these mechanics are useful for farms. If you wanted to farm glowberries using a piston, you could just use this flying machine like you normally do with a weeping vine farm. So, all you have to do is turn the flying machine on, and it will automatically harvest the glowberry. And all the glowberries you see here will pop off as items and drop down. you just need a water item collection system, and you're all set to go. But this is a pretty large farm. So I designed this micro glowberry farm. As you can see, this design uses foxes, and these foxes sit on a trapdoor with a cave vine underneath it. Now there's 4 foxes in this container. That's the best number I could come up with. And this cave vine here is bone meal by this dispenser, which provides the glowberries that the foxes automatically harvest. New bone meal is dispensed by this observer, which is hooked up to this block, a redstone dust, another block, and then there's the dispenser here. If you want to turn it off, just power the dispenser, and no bone meal gets wasted. As you can see, all the glowberries end up in here, and if you want to turn the farm back on again, power the dispenser, and then turn it off. And it's that simple. All you need to do is provide it with bone meal. Enough about glowberries, it's time to look at the new moss block and moss carpet. Moss carpets aren't too interesting of a block, though they can be used for decoration, and in grassy settings, you can use them for hidden lighting. You can also craft them out of moss blocks, but why would you do that when you can renewably get them by bone mealing moss blocks? Whenever you bone meal moss block, it will attempt to spread azaleas, flowering azaleas, and moss carpet, along with grass and tall grass, into a 7x7 area surrounding the moss block on the same Y level to blocks like moss, podzol, coarse dirt, and grass, like this. Now, you might think this is useful for a shifting floor farm, but it's not, because moss blocks and moss carpets cannot be pushed. Also, funnily enough, moss is sort of transparent. Like if you put a mob in there, they won't suffocate, which is a little bit weird. Since I couldn't use a shifting floor design to collect the moss carpets and azalea saplings that generate from bone mealing moss block, I had to come up with something else, and this is what I came up with. It's a bit less efficient than a shifting floor design, but it does overcome the limitation of being unable to use one. I'll show you working right here. What's happening here is that right after the dispenser bone meals the moss block and generates new plants, the sticky pistons above it shoot down their blocks into the plants, breaking them, and since those items are now in blocks, they elevate up. Then the sticky pistons pull the block back, which continues pulling the items into the water stream above, and brings them right here for collection. This farm looks very complicated, however, it's not as complicated as it seems. Let me describe each component, and you'll see why. First, we have this clock here. All it really does is loop the signal around and power this monostable circuit. It also isn't really hard to make. All you need is a comparator, a repeater, and then 2 repeaters on 2 ticks, a repeater here, and a sticky piston with a block. Then over here, this is where the dispenser is powered. This dispenser has bone meal in it, and these hoppers supply with bone meal. And then this redstone dot line also powers this piston, which pushes up this column of glass blocks, and this observer here. When this observer powers this note block, it powers all these powered rails and observers. And these observers QC power these sticky pistons, which cause them to push their blocks down, and this thing over here will generate a second pulse so that these sticky pistons pick their blocks back up. This is all timed so that all the items can properly item elevate back up. And this right here is the circuit that generates the second pulse and pushes the glass column back down. The last thing I should mention about this farm is I didn't include any form of item storage, but that shouldn't be too hard to make yourself. Oh, and since it generates seeds, you could compost those and put them back into the dispenser as some extra bone meal. There is one last interesting feature about the moss block. If a moss block is on the same Y level as stone, granite, andesite, diorite, gravel, sand, or dirt, and you bone meal it, it will convert the surrounding blocks into moss blocks, making moss blocks renewable. Keeping these mechanics in mind, I made this moss block, carpet, and azalea farm here. This farm uses a stone generator to make stone, and then pushes it up into the moss blocks, which breaks them, and then bone meal is shot out, which turns the surrounding stone into more moss blocks. Here's the farm in action. This is the switch right here, and this right here is the clock that controls the farm. and this is it in action. With this farm, the fourth cycle of the clock, the glass blocks are pushed down, which breaks the plants there, and the stone is pushed up at the same time the blocks are down. So, in case the moss didn't spread far enough, the stone will not break the farm, because the pistons are still extended with the glass there. The rest of the stone generator is also designed to be non-breakable, since the moss spreads a random distance each time it's bone mealed. The reason the stone is only pushed up after every fourth block is because that's the maximum amount of stone that would need to be regenerated if the moss spread to its fullest extent. You can also see that we get a lot of items back for each bone meal. If you were to compost these items down, you would make a profit on bone meal, meaning if you compost just the right amount of items, this farm will be self-sufficient. I'm not going to be doing a full tutorial or in-depth explanation of this farm now, because things can change with the snapshot. Also, I'm quite sure I can make the stone generators faster. All in all though, I hope to make a full tutorial on my finalized design of this farm once the Caves and Cliffs update is out. Moving on, what was changed in Snapshot 21w05b? Well, the one major change is that time will no longer freeze indefinitely, which is a huge plus. And yeah, that's pretty much it, besides a few renamings. That's all I've currently got, the new vegetation in this week's snapshot. But stay tuned, because I will be showing some new stray farms that you can make in this snapshot. So, with that all said, thank you all so much for watching. As always, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And if you like this video, make sure to check out my previous videos and come back for my next video. Once again, thank you all so much for watching, and goodbye. Wait a minute.